Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Archana Solanki. Here are the headlines we're tracking this evening. Sensex and Nifty declined for the fourth straight day, the longest losing streak in 2 months. Midcaps and small caps see sharper cuts amid a broad-based sell-off. The Indian rupee hits a record low as it moves within striking distance of the 88 mark against the US dollar. But a potential RBI intervention manages to stem the fall. Dealers expect the rupee to remain under pressure in the short term. Gold prices hit a record high as investors hunt for safe havens. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman warns banks and NBFCs over the recent 18% spike in gold loans turning sour. Says action will be taken if gold loan rules are violated. US President Donald Trump announces 25% tariffs on all aluminium and steel imports. Also promises reciprocal tariffs on top of existing duties on metals. The Nifty metal index slides as investors fear steel earlier imported into America could be dumped in India. Prime Minister Modi en route to France for the first leg of his two-nation trip will hold bilateral talks and co-chair a summit on artificial intelligence with Emmanuel Macron. The French president tells Network 18 that he, along with Prime Minister Modi, will push for tech sovereignty at the AI summit. Another setback for Byju's in less than a week. NCLT's Bengaluru bench refuses to allow closure of insolvency proceedings against Byju's despite a settlement proposal with BCCI says ball is in lenders' court. US-based lenders constitute over 99% of the committee of creditors and have opposed the settlement proposal in the past. Riot-hit Manipur faces a political crisis. Chief Minister Biren Singh resigns 21 months after ethnic violence broke out. Governor declares the upcoming assembly session null and void. The state is staring at potential president's rule. Asia's largest aerospace and defense exhibition kicks off in Bengaluru. More than 150 foreign companies and representatives from over 90 countries will be in attendance. Right, let's start with the market. Stocks got battered on Dalal Street as the market slipped for the fourth straight session. This is the longest losing streak in 2 months, with the fall showing no signs of abating. Nifty and Sensex recorded cuts of nearly 1%, but it was the broader markets that took it on the chin. The mid-cap and small-cap index tanked over 2%. Prashant Nair is here with the day's trading action. Prashant.
It was a tough day with the market taking a bit of a swoon and never really finding its feet through the course of the day. And the problem, of course, was with broader markets more than large caps. So, let's just take it from the top. The Nifty up on your screen did recover about 30-40 days from the sort of point low. And the Nifty Bank starting at about 224, 225 did see a bit of a bounce, 120 odd points worth. But the mid and the small cap indices, 2% flat out cuts on both those, although there as well from the absolute low point intraday, there was about 0.4, 0.5% kind of pullbacks that you saw. 5:1 declines to advances, and that was the extent of the broader market decline that we really saw. So very few pockets of green sectorally or otherwise. I'll start with what was down on the Nifty. Trend continues to come off the sharp cut on the earnings day last week. Today, top loser on the Nifty, Power Grid, Tata Steel, Titan, ONGC, Bajaj Finance were some of the names. Names like Bajaj Finance had broken out after about 2 or 3 years, but they're almost back in that range once again. Very few on the upside, not really worth mentioning. So I'm going to go straight to broader markets and where the losses were. Alchem Laboratories was a big cut today. Big number one volume led loser today. Max Healthcare, sharp cut. KRN was fairly recent listing. Tilak Nagar was limit down 20% on the back of news flow, of course, but it's done very well on the upside. Goldium International, one of those big new age kind of names which people were chasing, but now, of course, it's been down. Carraro, which is a recent listing, it was a pure offer for sale. It's back below its issue price, the IPO price actually. Five-star finance companies, Safari, JM Financial, NetWeb, another one of those names which has done very well. Jyoti Structures, Acme Solar, Kotak recently initiated, stock did well, but is basically back below those levels. Aeroflex Industries and EMS, some of the other names which came under fair bit of selling pressure. Some gainers as well. Reddington stood out. Signature, the real estate player, ITC Hotels, Varroc Engineering, Newland Laboratories, and something like a Camlin Fine was another one. There was, of course, the problem with the currency as well. The rupee, of course, almost got to 88, and then there was massive buying which came in. Reportedly, the RBI in the market supplying, dollars. So I think we'll, of course, have to wait for confirmation on that. But there was a massive move in the currency. A lot of all of this is tied up with what Trump does with tariffs. Reciprocal tariffs is essentially what we heard from President Trump in the US, and that is what is keeping markets nervous. And that is the reason why, that backdrop is the reason why this meeting between Prime Minister Modi and President Trump in the US this week will be very, very closely watched. Back to you.
Thank you, Prashant, for that. Aswath Damodaran, New York University finance professor and a well-known stock valuation expert, has called the Indian equity market the most expensive in the world. In a blog post, Damodaran argued that no amount of hand-waving could justify the valuations for Indian companies. Damodaran said that though US and China too fall into the most expensive valuation category, India was trading at significantly higher levels than most markets. He also cautioned, and I quote, "At the wrong price, even the safest market with great historical returns are bad investments." Axis Bank CEO Amitabh Chaudhary says the overall sentiment is a bit cautious at the moment. The bank's chief economist Neelkant Mishra believes economic revival is possible if credit growth can touch 14%.
I think the sentiment in our minds does remain a bit cautious at this point in time. RBI has taken a step forward in terms of cutting the interest rates. I mean, while we are optimistic about what could happen, we remain cautious because the real scene on the ground is we are not seeing enough movement at this point in time.
If we can get liquidity into the system, if we can get credit growth to start moving up, we will start to see, I think, the domestic economy reviving. If we are able to revive credit growth from 11 to 14, 15%, I think we should be able to see a significant rebound in economic momentum as well.
Trump's tariff threat is also moving the forex markets. The Indian rupee moved closer to 88 levels against the dollar. But a potential RBI intervention seems to have stemmed the fall, at least for now. Lata Venkatesh is here with more on the money markets. Lata.
It was mayhem in the morning because the rupee opened almost at 88, 87.9550 to be precise. Now, it appears that this was not very out of sync with other Asian currencies because some of them did fall about 0.8%. The fall in India at 87.95 would have worked out to about 0.6% fall. And there were ringgit and all had also fallen around the same number. And that's because obviously tariff talk, two kinds of tariff talk. One was reciprocal and the other tariff threat that came was on steel and aluminium. And therefore, obviously, a lot of Asian importers were impacted. But when it opened at that big number, the Reserve Bank appears to have made inquiries whether this is really importers coming in and buying or FPIs buying dollars, and noting that this is more position taking by what you can call speculators very loosely, but largely banks. They went in and they supported the rupee like hell. People are talking about $2 billion. Some are talking even $3 billion. But it clearly looks like a Reserve Bank support because it vertically fell the dollar from 87.95 all the way to 87.56, 57. That's been more or less stable at that level. Now, you stock market guys are lucky. You'll get some 22,800 support and 23,800 resistance. When we try to ask these questions of traders, forex traders, the level, they themselves tell us the levels we gave you, 87.50 at the beginning of the year, as level that will be reached in March, and 88 by end of the year, are all today, have hit today. So where do you go? At the moment, there's a working figure of 82.25 by March and 89 by December. But who knows? These levels could be just, erased in a day.
Thank you, Radha, for that. Gold prices have hit another all-time high and there's no stopping the rally. The yellow metal has gained over 10% since the start of 2025, thanks to continued safe haven buying, thanks to the tariff wars and the uncertainty surrounding global trade. Gold prices have also been on a tear back home, and gold loans, NPAs, have seen a sharp spike recently. After NPAs in gold loans surged by 18%, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman warned banks and NBFCs. Speaking in Parliament, she said action will be taken if financial institutions are found to be flouting the gold lending norms.
There is a process of giving enough number of notices to the bank account holder to say your servicing is not up to the mark, and that in the eventuality of you not coming back to pay, we will be forced to go on an auction. Now, even for going on an auction, there are very well laid out procedure. If there are specific instances where the Honorable MP thinks these laid out norms are violated, I'm quite willing to take the details and act on it.
On to all the action from the oil market. Oil prices inched higher after Trump's latest tariff threats on steel and aluminium. The move could dampen global economic growth and energy demand. Meanwhile, prices of cryptocurrencies remain volatile after Trump's tariff moves. While Bitcoin edged up above the $97,000 market, other cryptocurrencies like Ethereum slipped above 1%. The global crypto market declined 0.3% in last 24 hours. US President Donald Trump has fired a fresh salvo in his administration's trade war. He's announced plans to formally impose 25% tariffs on all steel and aluminum imports, thereby expanding his protectionist campaign into the metal sector as well. Addressing the media at his resort in Florida, Trump also outlined plans to unveil reciprocal tariffs later this week. Remember, Trump had imposed similar duties on steel and aluminum during his first term as well. However, he later granted duty-free quotas to some nations, including Canada and Mexico.
I'll be announcing probably Tuesday or Wednesday at a news conference reciprocal tariffs, and very simply, it's if they charge us, we charge them. Any steel coming into the United States is going to have a 25% tariff.
What about aluminum, sir?
Aluminum too.
10%?
25%.
25 for aluminum as well.
25 for both.
The road to Washington for Prime Minister Modi will go through Paris. He has embarked on his two-day bilateral visit to France. PM Modi will co-chair the AI Action Summit with French President Emmanuel Macron. Ahead of the summit, President Macron is set to host PM Modi for a dinner which is likely to be attended by several tech CEOs at the president's official residence in Paris today. Speaking to First Post and France TV, President Macron said he'll push for tech sovereignty along with Prime Minister Modi and reduce dependence on US and Chinese AI models. Macron also said that both India and France can carve a third way forward in the tech race, which has largely been focused on US and China.
If you depend on others to produce medicine or technology, then things can go wrong. So we need that partnership because we have shared interests and because we have the same worldview, focused on friendship and also interests. So together we will develop technological sovereignty. We want to train our talent, that they can go abroad, but they should also be at home. And we want to create data centers in India and in France.
Shares of Ola Electric declined in trade today after reporting a weak set of numbers in the third quarter. The stock was also impacted after brokerages including Goldman Sachs and Citi reduced their target prices on the company's stock. This comes as the company plans to enter the EV motorcycle segment. Speaking to CNBC-TV18, Ola Electric Mobility's CMD Bhavish Agrawal said that the company will be aggressive in responding to competition, which may impact gross margins going ahead.
There are some variables which we control and there are some variables we don't control. So our product, the supply chain, the gross margins are all under control, our operating costs. But if the market is aggressive, we will, since we have the leading gross margin profile and vertically integrated manufacturing, we will be aggressive in responding to market. So that might have some impact on gross margins in the near term. So our strategy remains to increase penetration from a position of strength vis-a-vis products and manufacturing.
Mahindra CEO and Managing Director Anish Shah has said that he expects electric vehicle margins to match up to the ICE margins over a period of time. Speaking to CNBC-TV18, he added that he remains optimistic on tractor industry and is seeing a healthy trend in rural area. Shah also said that Prime Minister Modi's visit to the United States is important since the American market is crucial for Mahindra.
Our target, and we have been fairly audacious in what we do, is to get to 40% in every segment we play in. So yes, we have a while to go, but that is part of the journey. So we do see a lot of green shoots in rural, as we've talked about earlier as well. Yes. For the fourth quarter, we expect 15% growth year over year, and that's a very healthy growth in this space. For next year, a little early to say as yet, because it will depend on this particular season and how that goes as well. Okay. But overall, we remain fairly optimistic about where rural is right now and prospects for attractive business next year.
Facebook parent Meta platform is looking to lay off over 300 employees, impacting around 5% of its workforce. Reports have said that the employees were informed through a memo last week. The report also cited that Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg told his staff in January 2025 that the company would raise the bar. He also said that the company will make quick move to remove low performers. And on that note, we'll slip into a short break, but coming up next, riot-hit Manipur faces a political crisis. Chief Minister Biren Singh resigns 21 months after ethnic violence broke out. More details when we return. Welcome back. Another setback for Byju's. In less than a week, NCLT's Bengaluru bench has refused to allow closure of insolvency proceedings despite a settlement proposal between promoter Ravindran and BCCI. Now the court has directed lenders to decide on it instead. Ashmit Kumar joins us now with the details. Ashmit, what does this mean for Byju's now?
Well, it's a difficult situation that Riju Ravindran and Baiju Ravindran find themselves in. Bear in mind that just a few days back, we had the NCLT, which had reshaped the COC. By reshaping, they had essentially included the US lenders back on board. The reason that's significant is, well, because US lenders account for 99.41% of the voting share. So that's largely it. The US lenders is the COC. That decision happened just a few days back. Today, the NCLT was required to decide on whether or not Riju Ravindran can pay the BCCI and settle the dispute which began this entire insolvency proceeding. The answer to that the NCLT has given is that, one, will not take a decision. The NCLT will not take a decision. It has instead directed Riju Ravindran to file this application before the COC. Now, that clearly is a difficult position for him, given as how the US lenders have been batting steadfast against any form of settlement. The US lenders have argued that their funds which they advanced to the Baiju subsidiary in the US has in fact been siphoned off by the likes of Riju Ravindran, Baiju Ravindran, that the amounts are large. We're talking about north of 11,000 crore rupees, and the fact that there is no certainty whether these funds which are being used to settle the BCCI payment dispute is in fact those very same funds that the US lenders had advanced now being round-tripped for a settlement. Now, these are allegations that were made, and it's the US lenders which are now charged with deciding on the fate of this settlement and on the fate of withdrawal of these insolvency proceedings. So clearly a tricky position for both Byju's as well as their founders, Baiju and Riju Ravindran. Back to you.
Thank you, Ashmit, for that. Manipur Chief Minister Biren Singh resigned from his post close to 2 years after the start of an ethnic violence which has since singed the state. The move came a day ahead of the state's budget session and amid rising dissent within the BJP over his handling of the ethnic violence. Biren Singh stepped down from the top post after a meeting in Delhi with Union Home Minister Amit Shah.
मणिपुर की जनता के लिए उन्होंने ये इस्तीफा दिया है और उन्होंने भारत सरकार को भी जो रिक्वेस्ट किया है कि हमारी मणिपुर के इंटीग्रिटी को बचाना है, हमारे मणिपुर के जनता को इतना सेफ्टी रखना है, ये सब उसके मन में है। इतना विकास का काम जो 2017 से करने के बाद अचानक हम कुछ प्रॉब्लम जो फेस किया है, बहुत दुख हुआ उसको भी, और अभी आने वाले दिनों के लिए उन्होंने सोच के रिजाइन किया।
The BJP, the NDA got a huge majority in February 2022. But within 15 months, Manipur began burning. So that is the first question. How did Manipur get to where it is today, even after a double-engine sarkar, even after such a huge majority in Manipur? And second question, why is the Prime Minister avoiding going to Manipur? This resignation of the Chief Minister is a direct result of the Congress's no confidence motion.
Politically speaking, it's uncertain as far as Manipur's future is concerned, but what really aggravated circumstances to this extent, what CNN News 18, CNBC Network 18 has learned is that there were intelligence inputs and political assessments which suggested that at least 20 MLAs from the Bharatiya Janata Party could be willing to support the Congress's no confidence motion that they were planning to bring in if this budget session of the Manipur Assembly had gone through. If you recall, last evening after N. Biren Singh submitted his resignation, Governor put in an order through his secretariat making his earlier order calling for a budget session from today null and void. So now that this immediate crisis has been averted, the government, the central government is looking at next move. There is a high likelihood that governor's rule could be invoked. The governor's report is expected to come to the centre in a couple of days. The budget session of Parliament ends on the 13th, and there is a high possibility that post that the central government could take a call on whether the next chief minister from Bharatiya Janata Party will replace Biren Singh or whether Governor Ajay Bhalla for now will be at the helm of affairs in Manipur, giving the central government enough elbow room and enough time to speak to all stakeholders and decide who is the best suited candidate to replace Biren Singh and bring the Kukis and Metis together in the interest of peace.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Business 360. More news and updates continue right here on CNBC-TV18.